Hello and good evening, Rush Nation, and welcome to 2023. We've been away for a brief hiatus, but you'll be pleased to see, as I am, we are back. And as ever, we have Murf. Murf, how are you, sir? Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's the longest break I've had from podcasting in 6 years, I think. But we've been battling our certain fruitions and bits and pieces down, haven't we? You and I, we couldn't
There's been a
seem
demon
to
or two. Yep.
stay healthy over the Christmas period and whatnot. I thought that ridiculous viral thing that went round that's about 28 times worse than COVID.
Yep.
I still got the tail end of the cough now. I've had it like a month. Never go out with Phil Bushby to a game, a football match, especially
You
a
inflicted it on him,
friendly.
did you?
Yeah, especially he's going to blame me. I blame him,
Yeah,
and
real
I've
nice
got a
Josh.
podcast, so it's easier to blame him than it is for him to blame me. So
Yeah.
yeah, we went to an Arsenal friendly, and then a couple of days afterwards felt grim. So and so did he. So maybe we got it from some idiot at the
North
ground. I
London.
don't know.
That's the problem.
North London, isn't it? So
It's
yeah,
the
and
south
then
side.
and then dealing with this ongoing issue, which hopefully next week I'll have some answers on and rule all the nasty stuff out, and then I can start 2023 getting healthy again. And you've been in the wars as well. Some of them self-inflicted, some of them other bits and pieces as well.
Yeah, I've had a few demons to tackle. I've damaged my foot, shutting it in the back door. That's always a fun one. I had a brief fear I thought I'd broke it, but I haven't. So it's yeah, there's a few things going on. And Christmas and Boxing Day and New Year and all that fell on the Mondays when we do the show, didn't they? So it just didn't quite pan out. But we're here. So
We are here, and there's lots of things going to be going on this off season. So we appreciate this year's been really tough. Most of it's been on me and my health challenges. And 2022 was a pretty terrible year from a health perspective. I didn't do half the things this season I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to write a little bit and didn't really get to that. And just lots of ongoing bits and pieces, which meant our shows were inconsistent. You were a little bit unwell, Dan. I was,
yep.
struggling all the way through. We just struggled to get into a rhythm, and it's tough when that happens, and it definitely hasn't been good on you guys as listeners. And we're going to kick it up a notch over the coming weeks. We're going to have some great guests. We are going to do a Super Bowl or a Super Bowl preview. I'm going to have some amazing guests lined up for that one to preview the Super Bowl, which is our normal kickoff. And if you've ever watched any of the previous ones, if you haven't, first of all, go back and watch them. But if you have, the caliber of guests that we get analyzing X's and O's, analyzing the betting lines, analyzing everything from fantasy to just an all-round experience. And I promise you this year we're going to get some legends as well on. So I'm looking forward to it, putting that out for Super Bowl Sunday. There will always be a contest. There will be one this year. Got to work out what the prize is as well. As well as I'm going to be doing a lot more videos this off season to get 2023 right, and some exclusive podcasts. So we've changed podcast provider. Everything that we do that's going to be exclusive content is available to our Patreons. Easiest way to sign up, patreon.com/5yard rush. Lots of strategy videos and podcasts, whatever mediums people kind of want. But we're also going to release some of this onto, we've changed podcast providers to Acast, and there's going to be an exclusive way for you to sign up to exclusive locked podcasts as well for this off season.
Nice.
So lots of additional content I'm going to do, short form, much shorter, more sort of regular strategy bursts. And we're going to do that here on this show as well. We don't completely gate all our content, but we do bits and pieces for those who do support the show, and lots of custom content as well. So, and it's a great community. We've signed up a couple of patrons already this year. Sign on patreon.com/5yard rush, and you can join that free. And there are lots of benefits. First of all, if you sign up and stay for 6 months, you get some merch, which ends up paying for your membership for most of the year. You get the playbook, you get exclusive leagues with prizes and all sorts of stuff. So great reasons to join. It ends up paying for itself 10 times and more over. And you know what, even if all of that doesn't appetize you, there's a really cheap tier on there that you can access, and it's a very, very small amount of money every month. It's loose change really, that you can get access to some of the gated content. So do join on to that. But yeah, we're going to also have some great guests over the next few weeks. I haven't booked any in, so there's no real spoilers, but got a good black book. So Dan and I are going to have some great guests on over the next 2 months. as we do a contrast of reviewing 2022 and starting to look ahead to 2023. Some of it will be draft content, but that is a lot more of the Dynasty guys. We will do some of that here, but at the end of the day, we do have a Dynasty show for a reason. We will give a different perspective and take on it, maybe for a redraft perspective. I'm not going to say we're not going to cross over at times, but we will have a different take and flavor on things. But also there's lots of great content. The playbook should hopefully be back this year. I've committed to writing it, so we'll start writing it at some point and get into that again, just looking to get the okay on the health, and then we'll start digging into that. So going to be a lot of content this off season. I always think the off season is a really exciting time. There's a lot of stuff to learn, and there's a lot of time to digest it. But at this point as well, Dan, we've got to celebrate our ships. How many fantasy titles did you bring home into the harbour this year?
4 in total, 2 of which were back to back, which I was quite pleased about. Yeah.
Titles back to back or redraft leagues back to back?
Dynasty titles, then one's back to back. I did get one redraft back to back, actually, thinking about it. And I won my division of Iggy, does his Kawasaki 7s that he does for charity. So I was quite pleased. I picked up the win in that 16 division there. So that was quite nice. So
very nice.
How about yourself?
9 titles. Did very well in the listener leagues, which saves us some money. So I took home 3 listener league titles, which is a pretty good hit rate from what I played in. So and different, and I like it because they're all different format. I won the standard redraft for the 3rd year in a row.
Nice.
So that's I never ever really thought of myself as a good standard player, but the Super Flex Titan Premium and the Rules Mania one I shared with Paul. Because it was literally like a mathematical draw.
Okay. It was a funny end to the season, right?
It was a really funny end of the season. I know some people. I've got to be honest here. I've got to praise a lot of the fantasy community. I know, maybe in different regions, different leagues, etc., it felt disingenuous or wonky. I don't know. I run 40 plus leagues, and not one person complained about the result. Not one person complained. Not one person sat there and quibbled or thought it was out of order, or and even if they had those feelings, they didn't raise them at any point. And I think I was very quick off the mark in my leagues to communicate, and I probably over-communicated.
Open, honest, up front is the best.
Exactly that. So I asked for some time. Then I said I made the ruling of, if they play the game in, before the end of the season, those points will count. If they don't, they won't. That's it. And that was before any ruling was made. And I think if you can make those decisions, I saw some Dynasty and some commissioners make a decision very quickly and just say, we're going to void it. That is what it is. And that's absolutely fine. I saw some people take time and then come to different ranges of decisions. I went to the point, I think, in some leagues where we had prizes on the line and there was only like one prize, where some I went out to people and got them in. You were one of these, right? In the UFC that we run. Yeah. I put the 2 of you in a chat and said, come to a conclusion that you're both happy with. Because it's one prize, and you both donated the prize, basically. That was the end outcome of it. You both donated the prize. You're both happy with the outcome of that, and you split it. And we donated the money to Oh yeah, I missed that. Yeah. But I donated the money to Mar Hammond's trust, and you're going to pay me at some point for that portion of it. But but that's the point of it, right? Is you got to, I think everyone in the fantasy community dealt with it brilliantly. It was a lot of money raised for charity. And I know at times people get frustrated with fantasy football. I know people get frustrated with leagues they play in and whatever. I think what you saw in that instant, which was incredibly heartbreaking and very difficult, was a lot of good, how good-natured many people are. But I think you also saw a community come together, which I think was incredible. But I think you also saw whether your league is well run or not.
Correct. I've left 2 Dynasty cash leagues already, purely on the basis there was no communication, no understanding. The guys in the championship didn't know what was going on, and it was just left till after the event. And I don't want no part of that.
And I think that's a shame. But I think, being a commissioner is hard. People think it's easy because it's mostly automated, but it's when
I'm okay
those
with
things
that.
are.
Just say you don't know. It's only
Yeah,
everybody understood it was totally
it's an unusual
unforeseen. You
situation.
couldn't do it. Just say you're having a look at the options. Buy some time.
I want to speak to some experts, or throw it out to the league.
Yeah.
Put it. Get you can do it any way you like. And let's be honest, after what we've experienced the last 3 years, these sorts of situations are going to happen. It's an unprecedented situation. We kept saying it was an unprecedented situation, but we had 2 seasons of COVID where games were being cancelled left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
We cannot just assume that these things aren't ever going to happen again, as freak nature as they are. Once something happens once, there is a precedent for it to happen again.
Yeah. Correct. And there's no perfect solution to an imperfect scenario.
Absolutely
That's
not.
what we found ourselves in. So
no, and but I have to praise everybody who's ever played in any of my leagues or anyone's played my leagues this year, for the positivity, for the support, for the many messages of appreciate what you do, appreciate you communicating with us. Like I said, not one person in my leagues, and that's a lot of people. That's we're talking over 100 people. Not one person complained to me publicly or privately. Now, whether they had some ill feeling about it, about the judgment or the way it skinned, I respect the fact that people kept it to themselves because they appreciate it wasn't a perfect situation. And where it looked like there was a situation I was going to benefit, I made sure that I didn't. It was like I split a league with Paul for that reason. I kind of had a feeling that they weren't going to play the game. I didn't think it was advantageous for either team to play the game that close to the playoffs, but you don't know. So after the split, well before that was done, because if it ruled the way it was, I was going to win, and that doesn't sit right with me. I know in a league you felt exactly the same, and there was lots of people that shared a lot of money, donated money, and I think it was impressive. So I think in the back of all the celebrations, and in the back of, I think it's okay to celebrate a title. By the way, I think if you won a fantasy league and you didn't feel like you could celebrate it because of the way you've won it, I appreciate it. At the time, it probably felt a bit crass, and I understand that. But I think now you can celebrate that title. We know that he's out of hospital. We know he's okay. It's okay to celebrate a title, even if the circumstances of which it came about were slightly fortuitous. I think that's fine. It is what it is. Absolutely, yeah. I had a few leagues where it was wrapped up, and it was what it was, and a few leagues where I'd lost, and it was wrapped up the other way, and I was happy to just concede. And I was like, it is what it is. Like, it doesn't matter.
My biggest success I had. Sorry, just totally occurred to me. I won my first ever Fantasy Cares Eliminator.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, was this the one with all your DSTs?
6 defenses and 7 kickers.
I love that. There you go.
Yep. John Bosch and his crazy rules he sets up for these. And drafted out of the box, paid off.
Yeah, amazing. See, there you go. And they're great leagues. I was very blessed and honoured to be asked to host one, and then we filled that and ran a second one. I didn't do very well this year in those.
Didn't get enough defenses and kickers, did you?
Didn't get enough defenses and kickers this year, but that's fine. I did do well in a couple of John Bosch's leagues though, so nice. I can't moan too much about my season, despite the fact most of my preseason was kind of disrupted through health. So is what it is. But yeah, listen, and I hope that we got so many messages. I got so many messages from people over Christmas and New Year to say thank you, and the advice they got from this show or from me or from anyone in our team. They did a great job and winning titles, and the people found the book really helpful, and that's what this is about. I get more pleasure, I think, from other people winning titles than I do from myself, but I do play to win, play hard. And I also got some good news today. I want to share the champions of champions, our very own Pitsy and Rob won the 5-yard rush champions of champions. They got their salvers today, their plates. You'll probably see an image from Rob, if not tonight, maybe tomorrow. They're the host of our 5 Fast Action Friday even. You'll see a tweet from at least Rob with the plate. It's nice. We give out some good prizes here on 5 yards. So just to rattle through, and the reason why you want to play in 5-yard leagues, we gave out not 1 but 2 plates because they were co-owners. But they agreed to pay for half of the other one. We gave out obviously the FFCC trophy. That's on its way to James Allen. Congratulations, James, on winning that. Our 4th different world champion from 4 different countries, Dan. So that's pretty impressive. We gave out 5 signed jerseys. Well, I say we, actually me with a book, but
Yep.
5 signed jerseys. We gave out, I think it's 11 or 12 different Listener League T-shirts.
Yep.
Have gone
Still
out,
got one of
plus
them.
invitations to the Champion of Champions. Well, you got to win a league, Dan. That's how it works. Champions of Champions invites, so chances to win the plate. But yeah, lots of and then Patreon prizes. So the 2 guys agreed to split the final.
Yep.
So they're going to get a. It's basically the winner got a jersey. Obviously, can't split a jersey, so they're going to basically take a voucher to put towards a jersey of their choice.
Okay.
So
awesome.
That was all the prizes. Now all of that money comes from just revenue that we produce through 5 Yard Rush. So none of these were paid entry leagues. They were donation leagues, sorry, charity leagues. So all that money went to charity. And just on that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who donated to our charity last year, CDH UK. We raised just over £5,100 in total last year. So thank you so much to everybody who donated. 5 Year Rush has donated now or raised just over £20,000 for charity since its inception. It's an enormous amount of money, and we always pick very small charities every single year. And we're very blessed to have our charity partner this year, which is MPS UK. And I'll share some information about that at another time. But yeah, really good to raise the money. We already kicked off this year. We've got nearly £300 in the bank, and we'll be launching the FFCC entries. Well, they've kind of already been unofficially launched, but we'll officially launch them some point in the next 7 days. So you'll have a way to get in. And I would love to expand it this year. I have worked out a way to which we can expand the tournament to double the amount. So that's 516 people. We could do that. If we reach that, we'd have to hit most of those people. We'd have to get 516, or if we fell a bit short, we could randomly draw some buys in there. But yeah, ultimately, that's what we want to achieve, and the more people who join and sign up, then we'll expand the tournament. So that's a lot going on. Appreciate it's been a bit of an infomercial the first few minutes, but I wanted to catch up. It's been a few weeks. So yes, appreciate everybody out there.
What? Nearing the climax of Super Wildcard Weekend. How's it been for you?
I've got to say, the standard of games was absolutely exceptional.
From an entertainment point of view in particular,
absolutely. I mean, really, we're talking about there was one half of football that wasn't great, which was the second half of the 49ers and Seahawks game. The 49ers just look absolutely dominant, and they look like a really solid pick to go on to the Super Bowl here in the AFC. They really do look a class outfit, and the Seahawks did well just to get here. This was everybody's number one, number two pick. Yeah, exactly that. So to get where they got to, Pete Carroll and everyone there has done an incredible job. And I know they're going to be a bit disappointed with the way that the performance has happened and the way that they've gone out. But losing to San Francisco in San Francisco is no disgrace. I don't think they disgraced themselves. First half of football I thought was very close and it was a good game. Second half got away from the Seahawks. That happens. But you look at the rest of the games, there was drama in all of them. You look at the Chargers and the Jags. I mean, we've seen this in Super Bowls, right, with Atlanta, and we've seen it with a few other teams. But did anybody really expect the Jaguars to come back from 27? The Jaguars, don't forget, this was the number one pick in 2022. This was the team that finished worst last year. Nobody expected this team to come back from 27-0 down. And questions have got to be asked of Brandon Staley. I think you can't lose a game like that. I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions. They had a +5 turnover margin. How do you lose a game like that? I mean, there'll be an inquest and all sorts, but an unbelievable game.
Second half of the game, Austin Eckler, RB1, and he only had 5 carries. All we would do is chew the clock.
When you're winning the game,
4-7 up or something at the time, 24-3 maybe, 27-3.
27-7 it was at the start of the half.
Run that ball.
Yeah, and do you know what? Even if you don't want to use Eckler, right, use another running back. You've got 4 on the roster.
They did use Josh Kelly a lot,
Yeah, a little bit, but not enough. Do you know what that game reminded me of? The last time that it reminded me of the Super Bowl, which the Chiefs won, and Kyle Shanahan, is winning with 9-10 minutes to play in that Super Bowl, and the play calling got so negative, and it just got so bizarre. I just lost control, and I get it, right? Pressure's a strange thing. We've seen some strange things. We saw Matt LaFleur a couple of years ago in the NFC title game call, kick a field goal instead of going for it and giving Tom Brady back the ball. Like, why would you do that? Like, with 2 minutes to go, why would you give Tom Brady back the ball? It's, there's just things like that, which pressure does to a crazy person. But they had so much time. There's so much, you got a half, and then you've got the entire third quarter to think about this and just think about, as you say, chew the clock, manage the game. It's poor game management. Credit to Jags, credit to Doug Pederson. This guy knows how to do it. He's won a Super Bowl. He knows how to do this. But that was an incredible game. Dolphins, Bills, I think everyone predicted this was going to be a blowout. And we saw some posts from some angry Dolphins fans today, which I'm bemused at. Like, you were going to lose this by 10 minimum. Like, you had a 7th round quarterback or an undrafted free agent quarterback out there. Like, it's Skylar Thompson playing in a playoff game. This game wasn't supposed to be close. And that Miami D and everyone, they played their heart out. It was an unbelievable contest. And maybe there's a couple of question marks about the Bills. Maybe you could argue still a bit of a hangover with Damar Hamlin thing. And
potentially. And they had all that emotion the week before in the Patriots game, didn't they? So,
of course you did.
They expected them to come out quite flat and so on. And, maybe that's got to factor in somewhat.
It's a massively underrated thing, right? I remember going to, and it's a completely different sport, completely different instance. I'm not comparing the two, right? But I remember going to Arsenal, right, against Birmingham City in 2008 at Birmingham City, right? Eduardo, Croatian striker, has a leg break. It's one of the worst injuries I've ever seen. He goes down. He's down. No, it was Martin. Not Martin Turner. It was something like that. It was a guy who never really went on to kick too many balls after this. It was like Martin Tucker, Martin Turner, Martin T something. I can't remember his name. It was a horrible challenge. He broke his leg. Pretty much never. He ended up going back to he went to Shakhtar and somewhat of a career, but not at the heights where we're going. But I remember that game. Arsenal ended up drawing 2-2. And the emotion of that and the way that the players handled that and the aftershock of having to witness your teammate go off with oxygen and all of that. And this guy's life wasn't even in danger. It was just a really bad career-ending, potentially leg break. They never recovered from that. They were top of the league at the time and they ended up throwing away the title. And I think the Bills have shown a lot of character, especially when they were down in that fourth quarter. The Dolphins came back. I think they've shown a lot of character, a lot of resilience, and nothing would please me more than Josh Allen winning a Super Bowl because I think he's an absolutely incredible human, an incredible player. I've always liked him. I've always thought he was an exceptional talent who I always thought was misunderstood in the draft process, and I'm glad that he has silenced any critics. But I do think that they have to deal with what's happened, and they don't have a lot of time and a lot of games to deal with that. And I think that's something that could be it could spur them on and it could kick them on to Super Bowl glory. It could be the thing that denies them. But, that was a great game. And then as well, we had, I didn't see the Giants beating the Vikings. I didn't see that one coming. As well.
I thought if anyone could, that was the one upset for me that was most likely of the lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have laid money on it, but if anyone was going to win, I thought the Giants could go there. The Vikings haven't been playing wonderful in most recent weeks.
No, and we know the D struggles.
They can on their day. And Barkley turned up, and Daniel Jones had a career game, which is what's needed at that level, right? And he delivered.
So Daniel Jones is the first quarterback in NFL history to have thrown for 300 yards, rushed for 75 yards or more, and won a playoff game. This puts the Giants in a very interesting position now. So I'm going to ask you.
Yep.
You're the Giants organization, right? You're going to the Eagles next. I think you're playing with free money now. If you're playing with free money, this coaching stuff, everyone's playing with free money.
Yep.
Regardless of whether you win or lose next week against the Eagles, do you bring back Daniel Jones next season?
I think they have to. I think if you look at the wide receiver core he's worked with, and the troubles he's had, he has led that offense as you would want a quarterback to do. Go on.
So, second question, how do you bring him back? Do you tag him or do you give him a deal? Because this is the other point. It's awkward because it's not just the fact about giving him because they
the thing is, he's not going to be able to
option.
command big money elsewhere. I don't think there'll be many suitors coming for Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
potentially. So I think they'd be able to tie him on a deal if Daniel Jones is willing to say, "Hey, this is my best shot at a long-term starter career." Because I think if he moves elsewhere, he gets lost in the ether inside 3 years. He goes into that black hole. So I think if he accepts that a lesser deal, a team-friendly deal, where not a big money shot, but gets paid, I think he goes back. I think they'd want him to go back, personally. What Daboll's built there around that. I mean, they played a playoff game with Isaiah Hodgkins and Richie James at wide receiver. Like, who saw that coming? And
Isaiah Hodgkins, who they claimed on November 2nd.
Yeah.
It's not even like he's been there all season. This guy just came in and then just started catching balls. The Giants, and this is the previous, we're talking Dave Gettleman here, made a huge mistake not picking up his fifth-year option. Because I think the fifth-year option, it gives you time. Yes, granted, you're going to have to pay him $22 million if you take it up. And I understand that. Buccaneers had this decision with Jameis, so they're going to do it, or they're not going to do it. $22 million for the quarterback position isn't atrocious for 1 year. It's not. You can make that work. It's half of what the elite players make at the position. I don't understand why they didn't pick up that fifth-year option. It's like they made the referendum of we're going to pass on Daniel Jones and just let him go, but we're not going to bring in a replacement. Like, how do you do that? If you brought in the replacement, whether you drafted him or whether you signed him in free agency, fine. I'd have gone, okay, fine, you've made a decision, you've moved on. But they didn't. They didn't make a decision. They just went, no, we're not going to do the fifth year, but we're not going to bring anyone in. He's going to play. And then
front office not talking to coaching.
Well, this was all the old regime. So they had to make this decision over a year ago. And then they've obviously got rid of Joe Judge. They got rid of Gettleman, stood down for health. I mean, let's be honest, he was a joke. I just think it's bizarre. They could have drafted Mac Jones last year. I know they traded the pick and they let and they could have got Justin Fields. They could have taken a quarterback last year and they didn't. They traded the previously to Chicago so Chicago could get Justin Fields. They could have had a quarterback. They decided not to take that option. I just think it's a costly mistake now because you've either got to trade him. When you can't trade, you've either got to tag him, which is going to cost you more than the $22 million anyway. So you've already lost money, but whatever, you tag him and he'll earn 28 or whatever it is. It's not it's $6 million on the cap, and it's not the worst mistake you can make, but it's avoidable.
Yeah.
Or you give him a deal, and if you give him a deal, what do you sign into? Like a 2-year 50, or what do you do? Because you're in this conundrum now, and it was completely avoidable. You could let him play his fifth year and make a decision, but yeah, this current regime did not make those decisions, so we can't blame them.
They had the trade option open now as well.
Yeah, exactly that. If they had the option, they would do
choices.
it.
Choices are everything.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I would probably keep him because I think you're picking too late in the draft now. Yep. You're picking at best if it all breaks their way. So they need the Buccaneers to lose tonight. And then I think they're the lowest ranked team of the final 8, which would put them at 20, 24, 25 is where they'd be realistically picking. So if they lose to the Eagles, obviously they could advance and go even further. You're not getting a quarterback there, I don't think. So, yeah, I think you've got to sign him. A 2-year, maybe you give him a 3-year deal. You don't guarantee any money in the 3rd year. I don't know how you do it, but I think it's something they're going to have to do. But I'm with you. I think they've got to keep him. But fair play to Daniel Jones because that is his NFL career there really on the line. And that was the difference in the game was the quarterbacks. I thought Cousins was passive. I thought he was someone who just didn't look. He just wasn't dynamic, was he? He's Kirk Cousins. He does a good job, but when the pressure's on, he doesn't deliver. We joked about
this tournament. He's the most experienced quarterback that took the field, and he did not look it at all, did he?
Well, no. I mean, did you see the stats going around about NFC quarterbacks in playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel Jones of the quarterbacks now, or who made the playoffs this year, has the second most amount of playoff wins with one, along with Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott. I think there's one more in there. Obviously, Brock Purdy joins that crew.
He does,
as well, and then Brady's got 35 playoff wins between on his own. So this is what the NFC is. It's a strange division, and got tonight's game, and the last last wildcard weekend game was the Ravens and the Bengals. I think the Ravens gave a really good account of themselves in that game. I don't think anyone gave him a chance with Tyler Huntley.
Funny play call game. We spoke about it earlier. Play calls and pressure situations. Tyler Huntley trying to go over the top of the ball. Like You
got J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins didn't have a rush inside the 5. What are you doing? He's one of the best running backs in football when he's fit. And I
he's not always well today, I believe. So.
Yeah, and he's right. He's absolutely right. Yep. What's he doing? He got 100 yards on 16 touches. You just give him the ball more. Like, what are you doing? You got one of the best running backs, and the Bengals can't stop the run. They haven't stopped the run all year. Like, what are you doing? Like, and that's how that team's built. It's built to run. It was strange, but then you have to credit they were winning, and they were winning the game. Like, they were winning the game, and they're not running the football. And then you get Hubbard, and you get the scoop and score. By the way, how bad is Eli Apple? Why don't we talk about this every year? How that guy still got a job in the NFL?
Doing a living, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, he's awful. Like, that was one of the worst games I've seen of a cornerback in a long time. Like, unbelievable. But I mean, listen, it was a great weekend. We got tonight's game, which I think is going to lower the standard.
Every game's gone over on the over/under so far. So
this won't.
I have that as well. I have that for you.
I went on Andy Davis's podcast. Pod Across the Pond, and you can listen to that. I've shared links out, and I broke down that game. Well, tonight's game, where I think it's going to go, I tried to remain impartial, but you're talking about two teams that are literally mirror images of each other. They're literally built to. It's literally, if these were magnets, they would repel each other. They're completely the same in their makeup, in terms of how they try and play. In the only thing you'd say is that Dallas are more balanced in their attack, and they have Tony Pollard, who's the only one of the running backs in this game who exceeded his yards over expected. But realistically, these teams match up very well, which means they cancel each other out. And I would smash the under in this game. Yeah, keys to the game. Of course, it is. Stepping up it's all about individuals, and it's all about the Buccaneers defense versus the Cowboys offense. And if the Buccaneers defense can make this game close and they can keep it close, they will win this game. If the Cowboys go out to a double-digit lead, they win it.
It's also about the Bucs O-line stopping Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great game for Micah Parsons. I don't.
But he has a potential when he's a player that could make an impact in the game.
Of course he does. And if I was Dan Quinn in this game as someone who was defensively coaching this, I would bring Micah Parsons up onto that D line, and I would make him just hit that O line, because the Buccaneers just aren't very good at running the football. Playing him at outside linebacker or playing him in that secondary is just not. There's no point. There's no point. All he's going to do is make tackles on open receivers, and he might make a play. He could make a fumble. He could get an interception potentially. But I think the damage he can cause on the D-line is so much more impactful, especially if you're going to target someone like Luke Gadecki, for example. That's be where I would be playing him. And if I was Dan Quinn, I would be attacking Luke Gadecki with Micah Parsons, bring someone else in, and I would just be literally going at it. Because you're not going to get sacks. You're not going to get sacks. But what you are going to get is you're going to get tip balls, pressure up the middle. You're going to hold the run. And you're going to reduce the options that Brady's going to have. You're going to stop him from throwing the football. You're going to stop him from getting comfortable in the pocket. Yeah. And then that's where he's prone to make mistakes, or you're going to get a lot of short drives and a lot of time in possession. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes. We'll find out tomorrow morning who is going to be going to San Francisco. The other games are all set in terms of we've got Jags going to the Chiefs, which I think is going to be probably the game of the weekend for me. I think if I had to pick one game to watch, that would be the one I'd watch. Right? Pardon?
It's got shootout written on it.
I think it's got shootout over it. I think a lot of people are going to sit there and crown the Chiefs very comfortably. I just think this Jags team has just got it's just got something about them.
They're
like the
now.
Lions. They don't quit.
Yeah.
They don't quit.
I think they've been behind in the last 7 weeks and won them all.
Yeah, exactly that. They don't quit and they find a way. And do you know, that's tough to coach against. It's tough to coach against when you got a team with that much belief. And again, they're playing with free money right now, so it doesn't they're not feeling the pressure. Bengals Bills is always a good game. It's always going to be a classic. Giants Eagles. I think it'll be that will be a very emotional game. I think it's going to be. I think you'll see a nice tribute. Do you know what? If they can get Damar Hamlin at that game, that would be absolutely incredible.
He was hoping to go to this week's game apparently, and he didn't quite make it. So I'm sure they'll do what they can to get there. And
I'd love to see that if they can get him on the field. Yeah, if they can get him on the field, if he can carry the ball out, I don't know, whatever you can do, something ceremonial. I think that'd be a special moment.
Crowd, right? That crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. That.
Rocking.
Giants Eagles.
See, I can see an upset again. The Eagles are by far the better team here, but division games, third time they're meeting this year, there's just something about a division game gives you a greater opportunity for an upset, I feel, because of how they know each other, they scheme each other, they coach against each other, they know it inside out that much more. So I think this one's the most likely for the upset.
I completely agree with you, by the way. I think as much as I didn't see the Giants beating the Vikings, as you say, divisional game, again, Giants playing with house money. Daniel Jones is playing. Injury. Yeah, Hurts back off injury. I also think coming off the bye, I don't think it's always great. I think it disrupts rhythm and flow.
Yeah. Hurts ain't thrown the ball for what, 3-4 weeks now?
Yeah, it's not been a while. So I think, you're looking at that and consistency. I think it's different with the Chiefs. They're used to it. They've been 1 seeds. They know how to manage that. But, you got to remember the Eagles aren't used to this. They're not used to being in this position. The Giants, again, plucky underdogs, nothing to lose. I think pressure will build.
They'll go down.
I go with that. I think that's absolutely the case here. And then you've got tonight's winner will be going to Levi Stadium,
which is a scary prospect for either of them.
Whoever goes,
will be least favored underdog there.
100%. I think you're looking at this and say, other than the Jags, which I don't agree with, by the way, I think the Jags will be placed as the lowest priced. Well, maybe the Giants. I don't know. Yeah. I think the winner of tonight's game should be, in my book, are the least likely to progress of all the teams. I think going to Levi Stadium against that 49ers D, and you could talk about Brock Purdy all you like, but this kid doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't make a mistake. But I saw a tweet the other day, and people were slating him because it's like, okay, he got two touchdowns that were thrown behind or at the line of scrimmage, and then one that he threw forward 8 yards and it went for a house call for 60-odd yards. It doesn't matter. The kid don't make a mistake.
Exactly, get him to that position.
Exactly.
He's got the 80 yards to get there. He hasn't had to throw a 35-yard bomb. He's got him the 80 yards up the field to get there.
But he doesn't turn the football over. Ultimately, in a Kyle Shanahan offense, and this is why Jimmy G was so successful, he didn't turn the football over. Jimmy G went to a Super Bowl without turning the football over. Like we saw NFC title game. Didn't he throw the ball like 9 or 11 times?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
that's how this team is built. It's not built.
They've added Christian McCaffrey to it.
Exactly that. That might be the trade of the year, by the way.
The best offensive player in the NFL.
He's up there, yeah, absolutely. If they win the Super Bowl, that's the best trade you'll ever see.
Yeah.
That's the best trade you ever see. You won't see a better trade than that if they win the Super Bowl. Like, it's insane. They've absolutely smashed that trade, and they're paying, they got pennies on the dollar for it. I think unbelievable bit of business there from John Lynch and the 49ers organization. I think drafting or getting in Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Unbelievable foresight to do that when you've got 2 quarterbacks on your roster, like to think about taking a punt on him. It's all panned out really well for them. And they still get all the injuries, and they're 2 injuries away from really falling out of things. But yeah, for me, the 49ers are the best team in the NFC. They're if they don't make the Super Bowl, I'd be shocked. I look at the rest of the teams in the NFC, and Brady can do it on his day. Listen, don't get me wrong. Brady, with the experience and everything, if he made a Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked. But the Giants, I'd be stunned. The the Eagles are the best team, but they're running a bit out of puff. We've seen this now. They're kind of since they've lost a couple of games, they've been sort of fighting this, and it's not been this seamless machine like when they were 11-0, 12-0. They started to face some adversity. They started to clug a little bit, and they're kind of like stuck in second gear, and they need a kick to really get on a bit. And yeah, they've had injuries, but I just look at the rest of the NFC and think, and if Dallas get there, I don't trust Mike McCarthy. I don't trust Dak Prescott to pull out enough consistent performances to get there. That might be harsh, but Dak Prescott hasn't. When the game is on the line, I have the same criticism of Dak Prescott that I have of Aaron Rodgers. That might be unfair since Dak Prescott's a 4th round pick. But when the game's on the line, do I really think Dak Prescott's the guy that's going to deliver it when he against a good team? I just haven't seen it. I think he's a very talented quarterback. I think he's got a lot of attributes to be a very, very good player, and I think he's shown he's been a very good player. I don't think he's a winner. The same way I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a winner. I don't think Drew Brees is a winner. Like, I'm not saying these aren't good quarterbacks, and they, there's lots of great quarterbacks in the NFL. We've seen lots of them who have gone on and had Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers was a very, very good quarterback, not a winner. He doesn't win. He's not like Peyton Manning, who I know didn't win for years. But
even Eli, to an extent, on that one, talking about Mannings.
Even Eli, when he got there,
his team for it when he got there, yeah.
When he got there, yeah, you could argue he's got a bit of a winning streak in him. You'd argue he wasn't consistent. Chips came up. Ben Roethlisberger for me was a winner. The guy never had a losing season. But not just that, but when he got to the playoffs and he got deep, he knew how to win. Tom Brady's probably the biggest winner we've ever seen. You're not going to see anyone like him who's more of a winner than that. And I think I just look at quarterbacks and think, are you a winner? Are you not a winner? I don't think Dak Prescott is. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is. I don't think Drew Brees was. I don't think Kirk Cousins is. And, they've all got different varying degrees and arrays of talent. I'm not saying they're all the same. I mean the winners. And I think that's my kind of point on that is I don't see Dak Prescott as a winner. I don't think Daniel Jones is a winner, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is. But with time, they're early, those two. It's hard to say. You look at the other side. I look at Patrick Mahomes as a winner. I think Allen's. I know he's not won it, but come on. You look at last season,
and he did it even in this game. We need 8 yards. It's 3rd and 8. Game's on the line. Just give me the ball. I'm going to run it. And that to me is a winner. That is the one that
absolutely.
Says, I'm not going to trust anybody else. Give it to me. I've got control of this. That to me is a winning mentality.
But you know what I like? The difference with this, there's 2 kinds of mentality there. One is I don't trust anyone on my team to make that play. Therefore, I feel like I have to do it. The hero Superman complex. Someone like James Winston. Right. It's Cam Newton, James Winston. I have to do this because this is my responsibility. Versus, I'm doing this because I know I will do it. I know I'm going to succeed.
Yeah,
that's the difference. He didn't feel the responsibility to do it because he's got the C on his chest and because he's the quarterback. It was, I'm doing this because I know I'm going to do it, and therefore that's the greatest chance of success. It's a decision-making strategy that he made.
And he's also strong enough to put the burden on himself if it doesn't happen.
Absolutely that, and that's why I think he's a winner, and he's not won it yet.
Agreed.
If Josh Allen doesn't win a Super Bowl title, I will in his career. I will be stunned. I'll be absolutely stunned because I think he's an incredible player, and I agree. And I think Joe Burrow's a winner. I think to take his team to the Super Bowl last year, I know he didn't win it, but I mean, 2nd year in the NFL, get your team to a Super Bowl. Off his injury. He's running it back this year. I think he's a winner. The way he acts, the demeanor, the calmness, the leadership he shows, I think he's absolutely a winner. And I think Trevor Lawrence could be a winner. I think he's got a lot of the trick. To throw 4 interceptions in a half. He was 4 for 15 for 30 yards and 4 interceptions, and to win a game,
24-point passer rating in the first half, and then 114 in the second.
I thought it was 0. I thought it was so bad, but that's what I mean. To do that and to turn it round, whether you should have had the opportunity or not,
it's a belief in yourself to not get your head down.
Yeah, and he's shown me the characteristics that he's a winner. Whether or not he is, we'll see. But You look at those four. You look at those four quarterbacks, and you look at the four quarterbacks in the NFC. It's chalk and cheese, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. It really is. But they're all there. They're all on the show. They've all got a chance to progress, right? So,
yeah.
Should we have a really early look back and ahead, fantasy-wise, since that's what we're really here for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this will be a fun exercise.
So I want to know what players have really built their value over the past month of the season for you.
I haven't settled on this, but if I had to sort of put some names on the block right now, Christian McCaffrey, I think you'd argue is probably up there.
He's already up there already. Yeah.
Well, yeah. If we're looking at players that I think were fringes and then they've probably jumped up a few rounds in the last few weeks, it's a really interesting one. Devonta Smith for me, I think is someone who probably was a very late round pick, and I think after the last few weeks is someone who has skyrocketed in value. I think you're going to see him go 5th, 6th round in drafts now potentially. So he's one name to mind. Traylon Burks just coming back there at the end. I know it wasn't always pretty, but I think he's one that potentially has skyrocketed. Not skyrocketed, but I think he's climbed a little bit in particular.
Isaiah Hodgkins, you mentioned earlier, I think it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see what happens with the contract situation and what happens with that team.
But he hasn't had a drop. Did you know that? He hasn't had a drop yet.
He hasn't had a drop, but he's someone that will definitely be on some radars after what he's done the last month of the season. I think Rashad White, I think, is going to be another one. I think depends what happens with Leonard Fournette. I think he's shown that they probably, if they can move on from Leonard Fournette, they will. And I think Rashad White might have a bit more of a role. I think that could be a mistake to raise him too high, but I think he won. Definitely did his stock no problem over the last month of the season.
At the Jags.
Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, I think both of them
under the radar. Good season.
Very, very good season. Very good last month. Zay Jones last month of the season was potentially a fantasy league. Where Evan Ingram, by the way, is another one.
Yes.
You know, he effectively in the championship playoffs was almost effectively a league winner until week 17. He'd have got you through week 14.
Moving to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Tight end too.
Yeah, I think both of them raised their value pretty well in the last few weeks of the season. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a few that you're looking at and thinking, there's a few there that have raised their profile and rightfully so and did very well down the stretch. And we'll see what they do in 2023.
So moving on then, which of this year's rookies, 2022, are you expecting to have a bit more of a breakout year?
Yeah, see, I don't have a solid answer to this. I've got to be honest.
And it's purely on the basis we haven't seen it yet. Jameson Williams.
Yeah, okay.
Wide receiver one coming into the draft.
Okay.
What we can do.
Okay, that I think is a fair one. I think absolutely. I would say Drake London. He hasn't really broken out for me. I think if they sort that quarterback conversation out in Atlanta, I think if he can get a bit better, I think that might be one that I would look at and think is due a breakout.
James Cook Buffalo is another one for me. I think Singletary.
Yeah.
I think James Cook can step into that lead role now. He got a lot of carries yesterday in the game.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens with Devin Singletary. He's definitely one that's primed to do something if it all breaks right for him. But yeah, I think there's a couple there. I've got to be honest, I wasn't too enamored with too much of this draft class. The wide receivers are the standout pieces. They've all kind of shown why they were taken where they were. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave in particular have shown what they can do. We've already seen what's happened with Breece Hall. We knew that. You're right. Jameson Williams, Traylon Burks, they're kind of the ones that we're expecting to kick on a little bit more. And Drake London, I think they're the three. And as you say, James Cook, they're probably the ones that you're expecting more out of this year and maybe a breakout because we haven't seen enough yet to call on breakouts. But
Cool.
they would be it for me.
So any of the rookies this year disappoint you that you're expecting to bounce back a bit next year?
Well, not rookies, but just regular players.
I
got a few on this. I think Deontay Johnson is too good a player to
have 174 catches without a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just going to. I haven't done the maths on the regressing back to the mean, but he immediately stands out as someone for me who I think is going to jump up quite significantly. I think he's going to be a very good price in drafts, and I'm very excited to draft a bit more of him again this year. took a punt this year. It didn't work out. I think the quarterback situation will be better. I think it'll all get a bit better for him next year. So I like him to come back a bit. I think I'd be looking at Mike Evans, ridiculously low touchdown number. His touchdown numbers are going to be heavily inflated because of his championship week, with those 3 touchdowns. But his touchdown numbers were very low. The quarterback's going to be a change.
Everything's going to be 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think he ended the season with 6 touchdowns, and 3 of them came in the final in week 17. He didn't play week 18 due to illness or whatever that was. So yeah, I would say that Mike Evans for me is someone who I'd expect maybe to bounce back. I know you did the yards. You'll always listen. You can write the 1,000 yards in pen. It's the touchdowns. But then is that enough from 6 to 10? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a slightly off base a little bit. I would say Gabe Davis would be one I'd be intrigued about. I definitely think things didn't always break his way this year. Even in championship week or week 18, we got 10 targets in that game. He caught 2 balls. I think things will break for him. It wasn't that many drops in that game. I'd be intrigued to see him. I don't think he was a full... he's at full hilt this year. I think we'll see a lot more out of him.
Yeah.
Drake London, I mentioned. Kyle Pitts, probably inversely the same. Might be another player there. And the one I keep an eye on. Yeah.
One that is always drafted mid-late rounds, who always delivers. And this year he didn't. But his situation should get better at quarterback next year. And it's Brandon Cooks.
Well, I think he gets traded, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, you will get a better situation. I'm with you on that. I think Brandon Cooks is always someone that you can rely on almost every year. This year's the first one he kind of has let you down. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think him, and I'd keep an eye on Alvin Kamara. The court case, if he doesn't get a ban, he's someone I would expect to be a lot better in next year, and potentially Joe Mixon as well with the way that he finished the year.
So, who's going to be drafted too high next year for you?
Yeah, I mean, right off. There's a few, right? I think I'm looking at some of the running backs. I think are going to get drafted too high. Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, maybe even Joe Mixon to a degree. I think they're going to go too high. I think Tony Pollard's going to go too high. I think Zeke Elliott. I don't know where he gets drafted, but if he's getting drafted in the 3rd, 4th round, that's too high. If he's the 7th round, that's probably about right. But I feel like he won't fall that far. Evan Ingram, for me, is a screaming player. I think will be drafted too high. TJ Hawkinson. These are players who I think have risen up boards, and I think they're going to overinflate their price. And it's hard because we don't know all the situational pieces and what's going to happen. But yeah, I think that there's definitely. I look at running backs. I think there's a lot of running backs here that I think are on their final legs. Derrick Henry potentially could be one that will be forced up into the top 5, and I don't think I would be taking him in the top 5. Austin Eckler, after what we've seen in that game, could potentially be another
last year's 101. Jonathan Taylor, where do we sit on him?
Yeah, it's a tough one, right?
Back a bit, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's fallen back to the pack with injuries, and I think you're going to have a new coaching staff
new QB,
in there.
Probably.
New QB, new offense. It's going to take some time. He's a tough one to rely on. And I'm also going to throw Josh Jacobs in here, the rushing champion. He's another one I think will, if you're drafting on stats, I think it's going to be drafted too high. I think I'm looking at the landscape now and I'm thinking, who's a running back I would take in the 1st round and think is going to deliver me enough points to make that selection worthwhile? Christian McCaffrey would definitely be in there.
My 101 all this year. I didn't change off it. And the moves helped.
Well, that's... Yeah, and I mean, he didn't deliver you the 101, but he was a pretty safe pick, right? You'd be pretty happy with what you got out of him, especially down the stretch. I'm struggling to think of another running back I feel really comfortable drafting in the 1st round right now. And that will change, right? As we're going through and we do some analysis, we see how the rosters develop. Maybe Derrick Henry at the 112 because of the security of what you get. Maybe Austin Eckler. I think they're probably the 3. And I think Derrick Henry will go too high only because the other 2 will go off the board. People get really scared and they're picking him at the 104, 105. and I think that's too high. I'm looking at the running back situation. I'm thinking I would rather have Jefferson, Brown, Diggs.
Yep. Chase.
Pardon?
Chase.
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 Yeah. Hill. I think even Kelsey in the first round. You got to take Kelsey in the first round next year.
Yep.
I'm having all those players over every running back, with the exception of maybe McCaffrey. I think I'd have every.
Are we looking at a year where we could have a wide receiver 101 for you then?
100%. I think you've got to take Justin right now in my head, right? And I'm going to caveat this with, I haven't done enough analysis. I haven't done enough. Yeah. Justin Jefferson for me is the 101.
Okay.
I think if I was on the clock today in a draft,
Hall coming back in.
Nah, I think I'd say I think the security of what you're going to get with Justin Jefferson in that offense, with the way that Kevin O'Connell's going to scheme it, I can't look past Justin Jefferson at the 101. At the 101, right? You're looking at a selection that's going to return you first round value. I think for me, with the volatility and the injuries at the running back position, I'm not sure I can go running back again at the 101. So I have to go wide receiver, and I have to take the one that I think is going to deliver the most amount of points. And I think that's going to be Justin Jefferson. I think he's the guy. Yes, I know he choked in week 17. Yes, you probably would have felt pretty crap if you lost the title with him. But you know what? There was 1 week he had a bad week in it all season. I think right now I'm Justin Jefferson 101. What about you?
I tend to agree. I think outside of that, the only person that would sway me purely on consistency would be McCaffrey, and I had concerns this year because of his injuries. But he will deliver on that offense. Even though Elijah Mitchell's come back, it's still Christian McCaffrey's backfield at the minute, and I don't see that changing. The injury concerns didn't bother me this year. You will get first-round draft capital with Christian McCaffrey. And I don't think there's going to be a lot between a few guys. I think 101 to 15. Hey, split hairs whether you've got the 101 or 103. Actually, being mid to late in that pack might make your decision easier. I don't think you're going to find a lot of points differential between them.
I could agree with that. I think if you took McCaffrey or Jefferson 101, I don't think you could argue one way or the other. I don't think I could see either of those falling to the 103. Maybe if you've got people scared of running backs, you could see McCaffrey fall to the 103. I don't think he's falling past 103. I don't think Jefferson's falling past 102.
No, he won't.
So I think those two for me are probably the clear tier at the top. And you could argue that maybe it's a Hill, a Chase, or anyone else behind. But I think they're all kind of not much of a muchness, but I think they're all exceptional plays in the first round, and I'd feel comfortable having. And I think this is where you could split hairs, or Justin. I think Chase, Hill, Brown. I think those three. Diggs. I think you could pretty much throw a blanket over the forward. I'd probably have Diggs at the back of that and probably create a little tier break. But I think those other three, I think you could throw a blanket over any of them, and I think you could put them wherever you want. I'll tell you a player who I think could get some first round buzz this year, and I think that's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
If they keep Goff, which I think they will, because I can't see why you wouldn't, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's a first round pick this year.
Okay. I still see him around the 2-3, 2-5, something like that for me, just coming around the back.
And I think that's the way his value should be. And I agree with you. But I think people will get too excited about this Lions offense and what they did last year. Expect them, I think, unrealistically to kick on. I don't think they can kick on at a much higher level than where they've already been. And I wouldn't take him in the first round, I don't think. But my point is, I think that's where he's going to end up. But I agree with you. I think second round, I'd feel more comfortable taking him there. Third round, I auto pick him. I think if he falls to the third round, I'd snap it. Second round, I'd feel comfy. I'm not sure I could get on board with a first round pick for him. But I think that's where, if we're looking at this in May, don't be shocked if you're seeing him at the 110, the 112, because I think that's where people are going to value him. And I think that's a bit high, but we'll get into it when the timing is right.
So off that then, who's the one player you want on all your teams?
Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's the one. Yeah, I don't have to think about that.
I'll go a different way. I'm going Travis Kelce.
Okay, I can get that.
Point to the position. I'll take Travis Kelce every day of the week.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I can't argue that. I think I can. Yeah, I think you can make a point for any of that. The same way that you can make a point for Josh Allen, right? I think if you could get Josh Allen on all your teams, you would. I think, for me, this is the clearest we're going into a season at who the 101 at each position is. I think it's Allen, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Kelsey. And I don't think there's any wavering from that in any I don't think you can argue the toss anywhere on any of those players. So I think we've got the clearest indication of who the best player in fantasy football is at each position, which I don't think we've had. I don't think there's been this much of I haven't been out to market, so I can't say it's a consensus, but I can't imagine people banging the drum for anyone over those four. No. I could see maybe some people going for Eckler in PPR. I can't see it, but whatever.
Based on format scoring, roster build, you'll see variations of those, I suppose, but those four are generically at the top, right? Yeah. So if you want Jefferson on every roster, who's the one player you're going to be fading?
There's lots of players I'm going to fade. All the tight ends not named Travis Kelce, I think, are all getting faded. I would say for me, the one player I'm worried about next year, based on all the changes that are going to happen, are Chris Godwin.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily going to say I'm going to fade him off every roster because you don't know what his price is going to be. Yeah. But I think people are going to look at the over 100 catch season. They're going to look at what he's put together in his career. And I think his career is going to speak more than the situation he's going to be in next year. So whereas I think Mike Evans is going to be a buy, because I actually think that Mike Evans is going to get more touchdowns, I think they're going to get a quarterback who's going to struggle. I think he's just going to throw balls up there and Mike's going to come down with them more. I think you're going to see a lot of contested catches
with other bad quarterbacks. Let's not forget
100%. He's got that proven record. I don't see the Buccaneers. They've thrown... Tom Brady's just set the record for the most amount of attempts and most amount of completions in a season. Yep. We're not going to see that again next year. So you're already looking at this offense, and I'm thinking I'm tuning it down about 20% in terms of the volume. I think they can't sustain the volume that they have done the last 3 years because Brady's not going to be there. You're going to get a rookie or you're going to get someone in free agency. They're not going to match this the way they are. Dial it down 20%. Everyone's numbers are all going to go. I think Godwin gets the biggest hit. I still like Godwin, but if he's going to get picked in the third, fourth round based on the numbers he's had, he's off all my rosters next year.
Fair.
And it's mad because he was a buy on all my rosters this year because I'm undervalued because of the injury. I was getting him in the 6th and 7th round, which is just...
And he's a slot receiver for Brady, so...
He catches 100 passes a year. Yeah. Like, how can you not... Like, he's injured. Yeah, he is, but he was never... Everyone was thinking he's going to be out till October. We said on this show how many times? He's not... He will play in September.
He did.
What about you?
Alvin Kamara is the one name that jumps out to me. I think taking the court case aside, his production this year wasn't where he expected it to be. The quarterback situation is still unknown. The coaching wasn't there. And the use of Taysom Hill just really worries me for Alvin Kamara next year. Yeah. To be honest. It wasn't... There weren't even flashes of the Alvin Kamara we thought we have. And add to that the court case... Yeah, I still see Alvin Kamara being a mid to late 2nd round pick.
Yeah, at that price, I'm with you. I think it depends a lot on the price, but I don't. I think people are going to be out of the Alvin Kamara business very quickly. I think he's going to fall the 4th round.
Okay.
And at the 4th round, I start to get a bit interested because of the upside. You're talking about a former RB1. It's not as much risk in the 4th round. You can make a 4th round pickup if you get it wrong. If he's falling 4th, 5th, which for me, I think his value is where David Montgomery's was and Josh Jacobs' was coming into this season. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say he's going to have as good. Well, exactly that. And Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders were 2 players we talked about exclusively on this show as players that were severely undervalued. Yeah. And both of them outperformed their ADP. And Josh Jacobs, potential league winner there with what you got. And Miles Sanders' first half of the season in particular was exceptional. Second half, it tailed off a bit. But I think either way, it's going to be an interesting season. We'll track all these prices and where people are and the movement. And we're going to do a lot more strategy and a lot more things on this pod. And we're going to have some great guests. And we're going to learn. We're going to review 2022. And we're going to make sure we win a lot more ships in 2023. And I just can't wait now. This is, for me, the exciting time of the year.
That's when the work starts, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Awesome. So we started with an infomercial. Do you want to just briefly, and I know what you're like, Murf, so briefly recap, summarize, and we'll wrap this up.
More shows, more content. We're gonna do some videos, but there's going to be some exclusive content for Patreons, and we're going to launch our Acast subscriber podcasts, which will be patrons will get that. So the easiest way, you go to patreon.com/5yardrush, or you can follow us on Acast. You can, I haven't set it up yet, so it's not there yet, but at some point this week, I'm going to set up the Acast pay content, and there's going to be exclusive podcasts on there. We're just developing some strategy. There'll be some conversations with some people in the industry, very short ones, expecting to be maybe like 15 minutes each. Probably do some of these and probably release some of these into free videos at some point, but not all of them, because I want to keep some of the content for those who support the pod. We're not going to make it ludicrously expensive either. So just enough to keep the lights on, to keep the content coming. So and Super Bowl special is going to be good. Giveaway, and we're going to do lots of cool stuff. I'm going to get some amazing people to talk to me, and we're going to do some X's and O's and lots of great content. I think last year's was about 4.5 hours. We'll see what happens this year with who we get and how long it'll be. I'm not promising if it's going to be longer or shorter, but either way, it's going to be a great show. And also, we're going to have an opportunity to give away something very special with a partnership that we're doing to get you ready for the Super Bowl. But more details on that next week, so it's a good reason to tune in then.
Cool. So finally then, congratulations to all the 5 Yard Listener League winners, and congratulations to anybody out there that did win a ship. It's a fair effort to get through 14-15 weeks of sustained success, so well done to all of you.
And also to Hannah. We got to congratulate Hannah on making the finals of the Scott Fish Bowl, representing Five Rush in great style. And also to Matt over the fantasy. Yeah, so she went into the final top, didn't quite break for a few injuries that week, bless her, but she, put in an amazing effort. And Matt at the Dynasty or the Fantasy Wildcard, Matt Thornton had a great run. Both of them representing the UK, making the finals of the Scott Fish Bowl, 3,000 fantasy players making the top 30s, top 1%. Incredible. But to Hannah represents
you and I at UK FFC this year.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm giving a talk, aren't I, Dan, on at UK FFC?
Hopefully.
You look more shocked about it than I do.
No, UK FFC details and launches haven't been announced yet, but there is a lot in the works. So anybody that did come last year, it's going to be bigger, it's going to be better. There's going to be a lot more going on. It's going to be a lot more interactive as well, which I'm really looking forward to. Different bits running simultaneously for people to dip in and out of, so that you haven't got to listen to everything. Last year was a little bit of, this is going on, everyone needs to sit and listen. Well, we're going to have different sections and rooms and bits people can come and go and join in and take part in, or leave and sit and have a drink with friends, and it's all going to be a bit more open. So change of venue has allowed that. It's also a bigger venue. It's going to be on for longer. More panels, more guests, more speakers, more stuff happening. Keep your eyes tuned, because we will be releasing the details of who, what, where, and when shortly.
Yeah, can't wait. It's going to be an amazing event. And to see people from the United States and South Africa, two of my biggest friends in this community, are coming, and I cannot wait. So, and listen, I want to do more conversations. I want to speak to more of you. Some people last year messaged me after saying, I really wanted to come up and talk to you, but I didn't feel I could.
Maybe they didn't recognize you, Mark.
If you can't recognize me,
well, they might struggle this year. We have a lookalike coming too.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to try and be more slimline so that people don't get confused with my lookalike.
Fair. Awesome. Murf, anything else you wish I had, sir?
Thanks. This is so good to be back. And I can't wait for the next few months. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to do a lot. And yeah, that's going to do a lot of best ball between now and May. So a lot of free leagues. So if you want to do one of those, I'm not doing them for a few weeks, but probably when we get into February, hit me up.
Yep.
And we're just going to draft a lot of best ball, a lot of practice, preseason swings, no money involved. If you want to just do some practice and get some drafting and scratch that draft itch, then we'll do a lot of those. And Dan, I'm sure you're going to have lots of fun things going on.
Yeah, I'm going to look at some more standard 1QB PPR redraft and just mock and mock and mock, so we can get some proper data behind us when we look into May and the rookies factor in and things like that. So I'm going to be trying to get the same group of people doing it each week, each 2 weeks, something like that, and just keep running it and see how different variations as news breaks throughout the off season change it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait for it.
Cool. Guys, it's good to be back. Murf, Happy New Year.
New Year, mate. As always, it's so good to be back. And don't forget, as always, keep rushing.